I lived on the third floor of an old apartment building for almost 2 years before anything unusual happened. It wasn't a nice building, but it was quiet. The walls were thin, the hallway lights occasionally flickered, and the elevator made a terrible grinding noise whenever it reached the third floor. But I never had any serious problems. Then one night, around 1:40 a.m., I heard knocking above my bedroom. 3 knocks, slow, deliberate. I sat up in bed and listened. Nothing. A few seconds later, 3 more knocks. I stared at the ceiling. The apartment above mine had been empty since before I moved in. I assumed someone had finally rented it. The next morning, I asked the woman who lived across the hall, "Did someone move into the apartment upstairs?" She looked confused. "No." I laughed awkwardly. "I heard someone walking around last night." She stared at me for a second before saying, "Don't worry about it." Then she walked away. I thought that was strange. That night, I heard it again. 1:40 a.m., 3 knocks, then footsteps. Slow footsteps moving across the ceiling above my bedroom. I grabbed my phone and recorded it. The footsteps stopped directly above my bed. Then something dragged across the floor. I didn't sleep. The following morning, I called my landlord. He sounded annoyed. "Nobody lives up there." I told him what I'd heard. There was a pause. Then he said, "Look, that apartment has been empty for months. Don't go up there." I asked why. He didn't answer. That night, I decided to stay awake. At exactly 1:40, the knocking started. 3 knocks, then 3 more. I recorded everything, but this time something was different. After the knocking stopped, I heard a voice, very faint, coming through the ceiling. "Are you awake?" I froze. I didn't respond. The voice came again. "Are you awake?" I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. I was about to leave the bedroom when I heard something directly outside my apartment. A soft knock. Not upstairs, at my front door. 3 knocks. I didn't move. Then someone whispered from the hallway, "Please open the door." I paused. I knew that voice. It was the voice of the woman who lived across the hall. I almost opened the door. Then my phone vibrated. It was a message from her. "Are you hearing the knocking too?" I stared at the screen. Then another message appeared. "Don't open your door." I stepped backward. The voice outside stopped. For several minutes, there was complete silence. Then I heard footsteps walking away. I waited until morning. When I finally opened my door, there was nobody there. But something was lying on the floor. A small piece of paper. I picked it up. There were 4 words written on it. "You answered last night." I immediately called my landlord. This time, he finally told me the truth. The previous tenant had complained about hearing knocking from the apartment above his. He had claimed that someone was walking around up there every night. Eventually, he stopped answering his phone. When the landlord entered the apartment, all of the tenant's belongings were still inside. His bed was made, his wallet was on the table, his keys were beside the door, but he was gone. The landlord said there was one other thing. On the bedroom ceiling, directly above where the man's bed had been, Someone had scratched 3 words into the paint. "Let me down." I moved out 2 days later. I never heard the knocking again. At least, not until several months afterward. I was staying in a different apartment across town. It was my first night there. Around 1:40 a.m., I woke up suddenly. 3 knocks came from above me. I stared at the ceiling. Then came 3 more, and this time I heard my own voice whisper from the other side. "Are you awake?" When I first noticed the stranger, I didn't think anything of him. I was working late at a small office building, and most nights I was the last person there. Around 10:30 p.m., I would shut everything down, lock the front door, and walk to my car. The parking lot was usually empty. One Thursday night, I noticed a man standing near the far end of the lot. He was wearing a dark jacket and holding a small paper bag. He wasn't doing anything, just standing there. I got into my car and drove away. The next night, he was there again. Same place, same jacket, same paper bag. I thought maybe he worked nearby. Then, on Saturday morning, I found the paper bag sitting outside my apartment door. There was no name on it. Inside was a cheap black notebook. I opened it. Every page was blank, except for the last one. Someone had written, "You forgot this." I threw the notebook away. That night, I checked the hallway before going to bed. Nobody was there. The next morning, the notebook was sitting on my kitchen table. I lived alone. I had locked the door before going to sleep. I checked the lock. Nothing was broken. I called my landlord, but he said nobody had entered the building. I didn't mention the man. I wasn't even sure there was a connection. Until Monday night. I left work at 11:15. The parking lot was empty. I unlocked my car. Then I noticed something on the driver's seat. The black notebook. I hadn't brought it with me. I stood outside the car for several seconds. Then I opened it. There was another message. "You shouldn't leave work alone." I looked around. Nothing. I drove home without stopping anywhere. When I reached my apartment, there was another paper bag outside my door. This time, I didn't touch it. I called a friend and asked him to stay on the phone while I went inside. I locked the door behind me. Then I checked every room. Everything looked normal. I finally went to bed around 2 a.m. At 3:06, I heard something fall in the kitchen. I got up. The apartment was dark. I walked toward the kitchen and saw the paper bag sitting on the counter. I knew I hadn't brought it inside. My hands were shaking as I opened it. There was a photograph. It showed me sitting at my desk at work. The picture had been taken from behind me. I turned the photograph over. On the back was a sentence. "You never look behind you." I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I quit my job. I packed a bag and stayed with my friend. For the first few days, nothing happened. I started thinking maybe whoever had been doing it had lost interest. Then, on the 4th night, my friend called me from the living room. He was holding something. A paper bag. It was sitting outside his front door. Inside was another photograph. This one showed both of us asleep on his couch. Neither of us had been asleep when the photograph was taken. My friend immediately checked the building hallway. Nobody was there. We looked at the security camera footage from the entrance. At 2:11 a.m., a man walked into the building. He was carrying a paper bag. He stopped directly in front of the camera. His face was hidden beneath a hood. He stood there for almost a minute. Then he slowly raised one finger to his lips and walked upstairs. The camera showed him entering the hallway outside our apartment. Then the footage skipped just 3 seconds. When it came back, the hallway was empty, but the paper bag was sitting outside the door. We moved out the next morning. I never found out who the man was, but about 6 months later, I received a package at my new address. No return address. Inside was the same black notebook. I opened it. Every page was still blank, except for the final page. There was a new sentence. "You moved again." I threw it away. That night, while I was lying in bed, I heard something scrape against my front door. I waited. Then I heard footsteps slowly moving down the hallway. My phone vibrated. Unknown number. One message. "You still don't look behind you." I stared at the screen. Then I noticed something through the gap beneath my bedroom door. A shadow. Someone was standing in the hallway, and the shadow was holding a paper bag.